Hello and welcome to Roos Restorations. In this video I'll be tackling a small storage cupboard with lots of veneer damage, and after the closing titles I'll be taking another quick look at the doll's house that you see in the background of all my videos. It's becoming a standard feature of my videos to spend the first few minutes battling with spiders' webs and nests before I can actually start on any restoration work. This was no different. Normally, I'd give a piece of furniture a good clean before working on it, but in this case I was afraid to get it wet because so much of the veneer was already hanging off. I decided to use a hide glue to try and get the veneer reattached. By warming the glue in hot water, it becomes thinner and easier to force underneath the veneer. I was going to need a lot of glue, so I decided to use a small bottle with a long needle rather than a syringe to apply it. Once the glue was applied, I needed to keep the veneer as flat as possible, so I prepared some pieces of wood with packing tape. The glue won't stick to the tape, so it reduces the risk of the wood sticking to the veneer. Using a knife, it was possible to lift the veneer and use the long nozzle to squirt glue underneath it. The only problem was that as soon as you lifted the veneer, more of it became detached and the task got longer and longer and longer. With as much of the veneer glue down as I dared, I used the taped up wood to hold it flat and then clamped the wood down, leaving it overnight to dry. With the main body of the cupboard set aside, it was time to tackle the doors. On one of them, almost all of the veneer at the top was coming off, so I decided to take more drastic action and pull back all of the veneer and re-glue it, rather than trying to force glue underneath it. So with a new scalpel blade, I cut the veneer along the edges of the panel and gently started to lift the whole sheet away. It came up cleaner than I expected and allowed me to get loads of glue underneath. With the glue evenly spread using a paintbrush, I went on to raid my decorating tools again, and used an old wallpaper seam roller to try and press the veneer into the glued surface. Moving back to the carcass of the cupboard, I used a carbide scraper to remove the finish from the structural pieces, and as they were solid oak, I was able to put some force into the scraping. With the sides done, I moved on to the veneered side panels, and here I had to turn down the power on the scraper. The veneer was very thin, so I only scraped where I knew the veneer to be sound. Hand sanding was the order of the day after that. The finish on the door frames was mostly perished, so I decided to sand them gently. I chose to use a finish sander for a bit more control rather than a random orbit sander. I decided to use the finish sander on the veneer, lifting all but a tiny amount of the weight of the sander off the surface. Because the veneer was a different colour to the frame, I decided to stain everything to bring the colours closer together. As I enjoyed using French polish on the last project, I thought I'd give it a try on this piece too. Once the French polish was dry, I gave everything a good coat of Gilboy's wax, and then buffed it off with a soft cloth. I really need to stop filming the reveal in the garden. The harsh sunlight does the rich colours of the piece no favours. As you can see, the original battery-powered lighting is still in place, and the question is, do I try to get it working or replace it with something more modern? Personally, I love those old Bakelite switches.